Goal 1 of the Mbantua Declaration states, the Australian education system promotes excellence and equity. Equity means giving everyone what they need in order to be successful. In Australia, we have reframed equity to mean all students are expected to reach a year-level standard, and thus equity is measured by the National Assessment Program in Literacy, or NAPLAN. To ensure this revisioned equity, we have a single pathway through the Australian curriculum English learning area. Any discussion about different standards for different students incites a flurry of criticism about low expectations. The National Curriculum Board explains that the decision to shape Australia's curriculum this way was influenced by previous attempts to combat inequity. They state, one important lesson learned from past efforts to overcome inequity is that an alternative curriculum for students who are regarded as disadvantaged does not treat them equitably. It is better to set the same high expectations for all students and to provide differentiated levels of support to ensure that all students have a fair chance to achieve those expectations. This is a view put by, for example, many leaders in the Indigenous community on behalf of their young people. And so, with this one equity pathway, children who are not meeting English language standards at 3rd grade are considered underperforming. And the government has reacted to these results of remote students on NAPLAN by dismantling bilingual programs. An action which removes choice by the community to decide what languages they want their children learning in and through at school, despite the fact this is considered a right for Indigenous people, a declaration of human rights which Australia is a signatory to. And there is a double standard here which Leonard Freeman and I have previously written about. Multilingualism is actually a priority for the Australian government in the languages of trade. For languages such as Mandarin, French, Japanese, Indonesian, there are 3 pathways. A first language pathway for students who speak the language as a mother tongue, a heritage language pathway for students who grew up in a home where the language was spoken, and a second language pathway. ACARA justifies the pathways by stating, for all learners of languages in Australia, the different relationship between their learning of the target language and English must be acknowledged. In addition, it must be recognised that second language learners will always be on a different learning pathway from first language learners when learning the target language. And yet, multilingual Aboriginal students learning English at school are expected to have met the English standards by year 3. And when they can't, we consider them failures. Research says that the best programs in the world can't help students learn the academic language to catch up with their monolingual peers by year 3. Researcher John Gunther notes that the gap in NAPLAN results has become embedded in the rhetoric of schooling, and this focus on educational disadvantage risks manufacturing the understanding that being Aboriginal is the disadvantage. We work with our pre-service teachers to recognise Australia's monolingual mindset and how this leads to the unfairness of the current arrangements to help them understand why policymakers and educators are reacting the way they are to difference and diversity. One activity we like to do is to show sentences in Aboriginal languages and ask pre-service teachers, which English language skills transfer across in deciphering this text? You're an adult learner. What do you need me to do to help you understand the meaning of this sentence? What supports would you need if you were going to become proficient in Pitjantjatjara? It helped us open the discussion about the utility and usefulness of the first language skills students bring to their learning. It is important to value diversity in our schools and classrooms. We have to learn who our students are, what is important to their communities, and support their development of language and literacies in appropriate ways in a system that refuses to do so. While all students benefit from language-rich classroom environments, empathetic teachers, and evidence-based pedagogies, we need classroom teachers who can provide their students with equitable opportunities to learn by tailoring their instruction to meet their students' individual language learning needs. We are challenging our pre-service teachers to see the 14,534 Aboriginal students in Northern Territory schools as multilingual, as English language learners. We are challenging our pre-service teachers to move beyond deficit discourse to question and critique terms like disadvantage and the gap. We are challenging our pre-service teachers to engage in classroom practices that respect cultural and linguistic diversity in order to manifest the excellent and equitable outcomes for all students called for in our National Education Declaration.